Hey everyone, welcome to another sit down with Michael Franzese. Hope everything is good in your land, in your town, with your families and friends. Hope everything is going just great for all of you. Everything good on this end. We did the movie review of the movie Shotcaller on Monday, and if you haven't seen that, go back to the last YouTube video that I did and watch it. Great movie. I think we did a decent review. You can watch it on Netflix if you haven't seen it before. And today I'm going to do something that kind of complements that, kind of an extension of that. And the title is going to be 5 Leadership Lessons that CEOs can learn from prison shot callers. Now, you might be saying, Michael, come on, shot caller in prison, what does that have to do with the CEO? You'll be surprised. I've said this many, many times. Business is business, whether you're doing it on the street, illegally, or you're doing it legally in the legitimate world. Business is business. Now, it's a little bit different in prison, but in prison, business goes on in certain ways, not so much in the federal institutions where I was most of my time, but quite often in the states. It's not good business, it's illegal business, but it's business. And things have to be kept and done in an orderly fashion. You need somebody on the top calling the shots, shot caller. And they got to be a pretty special person, I would say, to do what they do inside a prison. So today we're going to get into that. I think you're going to learn something from it. If you're a CEO, don't automatically say, oh, you know what, I know everything and I can't learn anything. You can always learn something. So listen in, you might be a little bit surprised. Before we get into that, michaelfranzese.com, crew is growing, leaps and bounds. We're getting a lot of new entries, a lot of new people every week, a lot of good content we're putting in there. The Inner Circle. I'm so proud of the Inner Circle, all of you. We're getting to know a lot of you. Great. We have an event coming up where I'm going to meet a lot of you. My Inner Circle knows about that. Life lessons, business lessons, leadership lessons, a lot of content we're putting in and personal contact with me. Join.michaelfranzese.com. So, having said that, what are the 5 leadership skills that a CEO, person in business, an executive, can learn from a shot caller? You ready? Here we go. Okay, first of all, for those of you that didn't see the movie or didn't see my review, let me tell you what a shot caller is. A shot caller normally is the leader of a gang in prison, whether it be the Aryan Brotherhood, Mexican Mafia, whatever other gang it is. And they call the shots, exactly that, in the prison for the rest of their crew, the rest of their group. What are the qualifications of a shot caller? Well, they're going to earn their credentials. They just be, there's not an election, you don't vote. They got to earn their credentials, and they do that by proving themselves inside the prison walls. That doesn't always mean that they're the deadliest guy. It doesn't mean that they're ready to kill everybody at every point in time. It means that they have to earn it. They have to show the people around them, the guys in their group, the guys in their gang, that they have the credentials to be the guy calling the shots. And let me explain this. In the state system, again, I explained it on Monday, in the state system, a little differently than the federal system where I spent most of my time. So I want to be clear. I'm not talking from real experience because I didn't do a lot of time in the state. I just happen to know. I've spoken to a lot of people. I understand what goes on because I've been, either visiting prisons or in prison my entire life, talking to people that are in prison. So I'm intimately familiar with the system. A shot caller, like I said, normally the head of the gang. There could be more than one shot caller. There's a shot caller for the Aryan Brotherhood, could be another shot caller for the Mexican Mafia, could be a shot caller just in your individual unit, the guy that's kind of keeping it order, keeping everything straight. And you got to earn it. Like I said, you got to prove yourself. There is a lot of nepotism in the Mafia, I would say. I told you that before. I got into the life because of my dad. I never denied that. He proposed me. I got in. Did I have a little leg up on some others? Probably, because my father had a tremendous reputation. And when you get recommended by somebody like my father, people pay attention. So yeah, but my father wouldn't have proposed me if he didn't think I had what it took to be in that life. He'd only be hurting me if he did that. So a lot of nepotism in that life. But regardless, you still have to prove yourself. no matter what. You know, you're your own person in that life, and you still have to prove your value in some way, shape, or form. Otherwise, you're just not accepted. And that's it. And I was told that the first day. So you move on. And I like to think that, you know, I proved myself in other ways. I wasn't the street thug. I wasn't the guy with a gun in my hand ready to shoot people all the time. Wasn't who I was. When I was asked to do something, told to do something, yes, I did it to the best of my ability. Nobody ever complained about it because I knew that I had to do what I had to do, and I did it effectively. And as a result, I rose in the ranks. That's how it goes in that life. In prison, the same thing. You got to prove yourself. You know, I like to say in almost anything that you do, if you're a CEO, you got to prove yourself for other people to want to follow you, pay attention to your skills or your directives in running the company. So I'll give you an example too, you know, nepotism. My son, Michael Jr., he runs the Slices restaurant that I was able to procure for him in Newport Beach. But he has to prove himself at that point. He's a great chef. He puts in 70 hours a week. He's doing the work. He had to prove himself. Yes, he was given the opportunity, but from that point on, he's got to prove himself. He now is in charge of the people underneath him, and in order for them to respect him and want to work for him, he has to prove himself, and I have to say he's doing a good job. You know, in prison, you don't get named a shot caller if you have a bad reputation. You have to prove yourself, prove your skills, prove your management skills in a way. Same with if you're a capo regime in my former life. You have to prove yourself. You don't get named that if you got a bad rep on the street, if your boss thinks that people are not going to pay attention to what you tell them, if you're not going to run your crew effectively. You got to prove yourself. As a CEO, the same thing. If you want the people working under you to respect you, to work hard for you, you have to prove yourself. So a shot caller has to prove himself, a CEO has to prove himself, pretty much the same, whether you're in prison or you're a CEO in a major company. You got to prove yourself. You got to create a good reputation for yourself in order to get into that position. Okay, so number one, put in the work and earn your credentials. You want to be a good shot caller, you got to do that. You want to be a good CEO, good boss, you got to do that also. Number two, how to maintain order in a chaotic environment. Now, as you can imagine, prison is a pretty chaotic environment. And you know, the answer to maintaining order is not always violence. It's not getting rid of somebody. You know, my dad taught me something long ago. He said, diplomacy is something that you really have to master. On the street, you have to master diplomacy. You can't always have a gun in your hand to solve problems. I think people get the impression that every problem is solved on the street, you know, with a baseball bat or a gun or some kind of form of violence. Not true at all. Remember, on the street, there's 750 made guys during my time. If everybody wanted to solve an issue that we had, you know, by violence, there would be mass chaos. Diplomacy, having a sit down, working things out. That's how you do it. A CEO, chaotic environment sometimes. You got to deal with a lot of different things within the workplace in your own company and also dealing with other CEOs to sit down and negotiate, make deals. You can't always be, you know, forceful about it. You have to be diplomatic. You have to learn how to work things out in chaos. I mean, during this pandemic, I can tell you, you know, it's the smart CEOs that were able to maintain balance in their company, try to keep their head above the water through all the chaos, through all the uncertainty through the pandemic. Prison is the same thing. You got a bunch of sometimes unruly guys underneath you, and you got to know how to keep order there. And it is very chaotic. There's always something going down in prison. Just about every day, something is going to happen there. And the guy that's calling the shots has to be able to maintain order. So if you're a CEO, you learn from the shot caller because they got a more difficult job than you do. Believe me, they're street guys. And sometimes they think the way to handle things is through a violence or some way that's not conducive to a good prison environment. So they have to be smart. They have to know how to outsmart people. They have to know how to calm them down. As a CEO, you pretty much have to do the same thing. You got to know how to work your people. You got to know how to appease them, how to get the most out of them. If you can do that as a CEO, the way a shot caller does it in prison and maintains control, you're in pretty good shape. And it's the same on the street. You know, I had a bunch of guys under me. Some of them were a little bit wild and they wanted to handle things in a certain way, got involved with other crews. A lot of things came down. It wasn't always the answer, hey, we're going to go get this guy, we're going to put him in a hospital. No, we try to solve things diplomatically. So shot caller has to do it in prison. CEO, got to do it the same way in your company. Number three, the third lesson a CEO can learn from a shot caller is prove that you're down. Now, what does that mean? You know, the best leaders are those that are ready to do whatever they ask the people under them to do and are capable of doing it. What do I mean? If you want somebody to follow you, they have to know that you're just as capable or even more capable than they are to do what you ask them to do. My father taught me that from day one. He said, Michael, you want to be a good leader? Don't ever let your crew doubt you. If you're telling them to do something, they better darn well know that you can do it just as good, maybe even better, and that you're willing to do it. So you got to prove that you're down. A shot caller in prison, he's not going to get respect unless the guys under him know that he was effective in doing whatever he needed to do. Now, it's a little bit different in prison. Maybe he had to prove himself by an act of violence. Maybe even he killed somebody in there. You know, whatever it might have been, he has to let his crew, his people underneath him, know that he's capable, ready, willing, and able to do the dirty work. You know, I'll give you an example. You know, you own a restaurant. I've got a restaurant now out in Newport Beach. Everybody knows it's Slices. There's times I'll go in there and I'll pick up a broom and sweep up the floor because I'm showing people this place has got to be clean. The meatballs, you know about that, right? I've done, you know, some things on social media. I make the meatballs. I let them see that I can do this if I need to do it. Just because I'm the boss doesn't mean that I don't get my hands dirty. You got to be able to get your hands dirty. As a CEO, same thing. If you want the people underneath you to respect you, you should know everything that they're doing and actually be better at doing it than they are in some cases, or at least as effective. You want to be a successful CEO in that regard, take some hints from a shot caller, get down and dirty, and let the people underneath you know that you're ready, willing, and able to do the dirty work. There's no shame in putting a broom in your hand. There's no shame in sitting down at the computer and knocking something out right away. There's no shame in doing that kind of work. As a matter of fact, people under you will respect you more, you'll have more credibility, and I guarantee you'll be more effective as a CEO. Number 4, put the interests of the group or the gang or the company above your own. You know, a good shot caller is never going to be a guy with a big ego. If you let your ego get in the way of certain decisions that need to be made, oftentimes you're going to sacrifice the crew, the people underneath you in prison. You have to make decisions based upon the benefit of the people that you are supervising, the people that are underneath you. If you have an ego, if you're looking for the prestige of being called a shot caller in prison, people are going to find you out. You're not going to last. People see these things out. And remember, in prison, you got a bunch of guys underneath you that could be pretty treacherous, pretty capable of doing something that's not in the best interest of the shot caller. So ego has to stay out of it. The idea of prestige has to stay out of it. Very important in the prison yard. CEO, the same thing. You're going to have to make decisions based upon the benefit of the company, the benefit of the business. Sometimes it may not be financially beneficial to yourself. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, I could have made more money if I did it this way. People would have looked at me a better way if I did it this way, but it's not going to benefit the company that I'm working for, working with, and the people that are working under me. So, just like a shot caller in prison, leave the ego at the door. Don't worry about prestige. Worry about the people underneath you so that you can have a successful and chaotic-free environment in prison. CEO, the same thing. Leave the ego out, not prestige. Do things for the benefit of the group. Okay, and the 5th lesson a CEO can learn from a prison shot caller is this: keep a level head. You know, prison is a very chaotic situation. I can't tell you how many times I've seen things just blow up on a prison yard over silly things. Because you got to remember, people are tense. Many people are miserable. A lot of them are unhappy. A lot of stuff going on in their lives that they have no control of because they're in prison. Prison isn't exactly a happy environment. So it's always a short fuse. Anything can happen. And I've seen things happen on a daily basis. The telephone, really a hot spot. You know, so often you have a 10-minute phone call. There's a line waiting to get on the call. And the guy in front of you takes an extra minute. Maybe an extra 2 minutes. You're cutting into the guy behind you. He's getting upset, you know, disrespecting. You're not respecting my time. The guy on the phone, sometimes, you know, it's really not his fault. Maybe he's got a tough call with his wife, his kid, his lawyer. He's hearing something. He's trying to get information because when you only got 10 minutes a day, it's tough. So, you know, it's a heated situation. I've seen more people get in arguments and fights and some, you know, bad things go down over the telephone than you can imagine. You know, and it's another thing, the word respect that I use. I think I've said this before. My dad taught me 3 things. He said, Michael, when you get into prison finally, and you'll go one day, he said, I'm going to give you 3 words that are going to help you a lot. Please, thank you, excuse me. The reason for that is I believe so many guys in prison that never got respect on the outside are looking for respect on the inside because it just shows that they're, a man or whatever. So you bump into somebody, excuse me, what's the big deal? Excuse me, didn't mean it. You ask somebody for something, please, can I have this? Or please, can I take an extra minute on the phone? You're not disrespecting them. Somebody gives you something, thank you. You cut somebody on the line, please, do you mind if I get in? They say yes, thank you. Goes a long way. I never had an issue in prison, never. I respected people, they respected me, and I was in some rough places. Never had a problem, Other people, I heard, you got to leave your ego at the door in prison, especially in the maximum security institutions. They don't care who you are. These guys are doing life 50 years, 100 years. Many of them are not coming home. You can't disrespect them and push your weight around in there because a lot of them, hey, if I die tomorrow, who cares? Look at the way I'm living. You got to maintain a certain environment in there. So if you're a shot caller, you got to keep a level head. You can't create more chaos in the yard because what happens when there's chaos? You get in trouble, you get in a fight, you lose your privileges, you go in a hole. You cause a fight in the yard among a lot of people, what happens? The yard gets locked down. No visits, no phone calls, no commissary. Who wants that? So the guy that's in charge has to have a level head. He's got to learn how to control the people under them and teach them how they have to maintain control. Sometimes you got to do it forcefully and say, hey, you step out of line, you're not going to jeopardize everybody, you're going to be in trouble for it. And other times maybe he can just talk it down and set the tone. He's got to be smart, he's got to keep a level head. A CEO, you know what? You got to respect the people underneath you. You can't be barking orders at them every minute and showing them that you don't respect them. You're not going to get much out of them. They're going to be talking behind your back. You're not a true leader if you do that. You want to get productivity, you want to get the most out of your people, treat them with respect. Show them that you care. It's very, very important because what's your job? Your job is to get the most production out of the people under you. To make the business work as best as you possibly can. The bottom line. You have to create the best bottom line that you possibly can. That's your job as a CEO, and you don't do it by running around ranting and raving and abusing people and calling them out. Learn that from the shot caller, because if you're a shot caller in prison and you don't know how to do that, you're not going to last. And you're going to just create more chaos, and probably it's going to end up worse for the shot caller. CEO, you won't maintain your position that long if you got an ego and you're disrespecting people and you're not doing the best for your company. So learn how to keep a level head. It'll only do you good. So that's it on the 5 things that a CEO can learn from a shot caller in prison. It always amazes me, when I look at the comments section that I get on all these videos and on social media. And by the way, we get thousands on a daily basis, so please don't be offended if we don't answer. I have a team. It's tough to keep up, but we do look. And the reason that we look, not so much to answer all the time because we can't, okay, but because we want to get ideas of what kind of content to put on YouTube, the questions that we're asking. We did a YouTube not too long ago, and the comments showed us that we needed to do something similar to that because so many people were asking questions about, what it is that we posted that day. And that's how we get some ideas. But please, like I said, don't be offended if we can't get to them. There's just too many of them, thousands on a daily basis. But, it always amazes me is how similar we really are, even when we're in different walks of life. Now, did you ever think as a CEO you can learn something from a prison shot caller? Did you ever think that you might have to have similar characteristics? Probably not. You go, a guy in prison, I don't want anything to do with that. Well, you know what? He's still a human being. He still has to have characteristics of a human being, that help him in his position. Same as a CEO, you got to have certain characteristics that help you in that level of supervisory that you are. So at the end of the day, we're all just human beings. And I relate to so many people from the comments that I receive that are going through similar things that I went through in my life. And obviously my life was different. I grew up with a dad who was an underboss of the Colombo family. We went through trials, we went through prison stuff, we went through, so many different things that other people didn't experience, but they had situations with their siblings, they had situations in school, they had things in their work environment, maybe the parents, they didn't relate properly to them. So in those ways, we're kind of alike. So, we can learn from each other no matter what walk of life we're in. You know, there's people that have less experience than I do, but they might say something that say, wow, you know, that really struck me because I went through a similar situation. And it's pretty amazing how alike we are in so many ways. We're all human beings, and you know, I like to say we're all God's children, and we all got the same DNA in us. You know, it varies it a little bit, but it's the DNA that makes us up. So anyway, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you gained something from it, a little bit of knowledge. That's part of what we try to do here. Yes, we tell stories. Yes, we review movies. Yes, we sit down with people, but we always try to give a little information that could be helpful, beneficial to you in some ways. You want more of this? MichaelFranzese.com. Join my crew. It's not going to cost you a penny. And we give you a lot of wisdom, a lot of information, and you want to take a step up. You know, not everybody has money. We get it. So we want to do things for people for free. That's what we do. Just like YouTube. You watch it, it's free. In the crew, you get a lot more of it. It's a lot more beneficial. You want a little bit more of me and what my team has to offer? You want one-on-one contact with me at times? You want to get to an event with me where we're all going to be sitting down, me and my inner circle? You want to encourage one another? You want to get words of wisdom about leadership, business, life skills? We do all of that in the inner circle. Costs you a little bit of money. It's not going to break the bank. Trust me on that. Okay, it's fair for the work that we put in and for what you're going to get out of it. To give it a shot, I guarantee you're going to benefit by it. So many people joined during the pandemic and they're not leaving because it's been tremendous. And we work hard. We put a lot of effort into trying to make it a great experience for you in every which way. Join.michaelfranzese.com. Got some great things coming up. Interview with Armand DeSante and a few other surprises. I'm not going to mention them yet, but they're in the bank already. We got them, so they're coming up soon. Love Armand. He's a terrific guy. And you know the Gotti movie, I'm always bragging about it because it was great. But so that's it for today. And, you know, I leave you the same way each time, and you know how that is. Be safe, be healthy, God bless you all, and yes, I will see you next time.